Announcement by Mr. Speaker.
I have few announcements to make. The first is to encourage all honorable members to acquaint ourselves with the new security protocols put in place by the administration of Parliament, and to particularly so talk to members of Parliament to follow the rules and to observe the principles that have been put in place, so as to ensure that the safety and security of members of Parliament are within what the administration can guarantee. It is difficult for us to elect members of Parliament, but it is more so difficult to protect you, particularly when you are in the precincts of Parliament. So to ensure that we do our maximum in protecting you, and to ensure that whatever transpires in Parliament is exactly what goes out to the public, we are encouraging members of Parliament to understand and to adhere to the security protocols. The second announcement I have to make is the fact that on Thursday, an issue with regards Orange came up, and a committee was set up. I realized that by yesterday they have reduced the tariff to 1%, which means they have been extorting our people. So the committee must look at it, and you would advise or update the House accordingly. Equally so on Orange, there is also recognition of the fact that quite recently they were offering the Orange MiFi Cola bundle for 75,000 news weekly for 3.5 Mbps, and they've reduced it to 70,000 news for 2.5 Mbps, which means they are still cheating the people. So the committee should also look into that. So, Chairman, those are the announcements I have to make. Thank you.
Motion of thanks to His Excellency the President, Dr. Julius Maada. Proposer, Honorable Matthew S. Nima. Seconder, Honorable Nene Levy.
Leader, sir, we need to amend the order. And the other paper, the seconder is Honorable Bashir.
I don't know, because the one I have is Honorable Nene Levy. So if that is the case, proposed by Mr. Speaker, I move that the other paper be amended for the second of the motion to thank His Excellency the President, the Honorable Nene Levy. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder?
I so second, Honorable Speaker.
All in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Go ahead, sir.
The motion to amend the other paper moved by the Leader of Government Business has been carried.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, when a new dawn in our political lives, setting the pace of the trajectory of this nation by the current administration by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Mr. Speaker, you are going to permit me to transverse this presentation made by His Excellency the President of this House. In this chamber, on Tuesday, the 6th August 2024, at 10 a.m., the motion of thanks to His Excellency the President. Mr. Speaker, let me start by recognizing the role of Parliament. Parliament itself, from one of his statements, is a living embodiment that shows the structure, also the diversity and unity of this very house we are. As Parliament has enshrined in paragraph 2, it said, if indeed we are the living embodiment of our nation diversity and unity, I want to draw your attention to paragraph 2, Mr. Speaker, I so read. Mr. Speaker, as I said, you are going to permit me to transverse so that members can understand that what we are doing, most of the time, is President, is to do an assessment, be it the pros, be it the cons, but all of us to come together to prefer solutions. How do we solve the problems that we are faced with? So that's why I say I'm going to transverse right from the start to the ending. So if you see me staying long, please permit me to do so. But let me first start with reading this one. Paragraph 3, Mr. Speaker, with your leave. Governance and politics, though intertwined, serve different purposes. Politics is a pathway to governance. It is a spirited dance of democracy. Yet, once elections are behind us, we must embrace governance with singular onus. If we allow politics to overshadow governance, we fail not only as politicians, but also as custodians of our nation's future. Mr. Speaker, President Bio is trying to draw our attention to some of the issues within our political activities. First, there is time for politics. Secondly, we need to focus on our attention because our tone in terms of talking about our nation diversity, in terms of unity, we try to uphold the values of democracy. That is embodiment on us as members of parliament. So our rhetoric has to be controlled by what we tell our constituents. The message that we pass to people has to be in tune with what we do after politics. Even within the political sphere, we are campaigning. We should be mindful of the things that we sell out because we have our manifesto. So by this point, I extend my friendly heart and by extension in terms of unity, in terms of progress of this nation, to my colleagues on the other side, and to the parliamentaries on the other side, that let us criticize, but let us prefer solutions. Let us support, and let us give where there are excesses we need to control. That is the shape of democracy that we need to take. But Mr. Speaker, I said I have extended my friendly atmosphere to my colleagues on the other side in terms of spirit and unity and the different diversity we face during politics and post-elections. Let me also draw your attention, going back to the conclusion of His Excellency the President, from his speech, go to paragraph 179. Let me read, Mr. Speaker, for the attention of members. 179. Mr. Speaker, we hold position of leadership, but the true holders of power are the citizens. The only group of people from whom we derive legitimacy to hold our various positions. Our fingers must never drift away from the nation's pulse. We must be both responsible and responsive. Mr. Speaker, it's a matter of fact that the people we represent here, we should not present ourselves as sycophants. We should present ourselves as meaningful representatives of the people. Our Deputy Speaker and Speaker presiding us now, you hold a position of trust. That is what the President is asking us to look at. And these are the things that we need to do. And the things that we need to push is what brings us together and focus less on what divides us. I can criticize you and lay the platform for solutions. That's what I expect my colleagues on the other side. That is why I have quoted starting paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and transfer as far as paragraph 179 to tell us, to remind us about our civil responsibility as politicians. But Mr. Speaker, let me draw attention to, we can use this circumstance to change the landscape of the political atmosphere in this country, to tone down the tensions we have between ourselves in terms of politics. In 2022, in paragraph 2, I can still vividly recall, he quoted Martin Luther King, the ultimate measure of man. It's where he stands at the time of difficulties. But what you can do in terms of challenging comfort, rather, but what you can do in terms of challenges. When you have comfort by Martin Luther King, that's not the time you have to make a decision that you think is the best time. Perhaps you are in a comfort zone, so it will be difficult for you, or you feel in climate position, it cannot be meaningful. But at the time of challenges, as we do have now a political atmosphere in Sierra Leone, that is the time we decide what do we do. So it's very clear in the quotation he said about Luther King that the ultimate measure of man is always considered at where the moment stand, not only at comfort, but at doing challenges we face. President Biya has called our attention to those values. That you cannot make a comfortable decision and you think you have done this all when things are right for you. But when you are faced with challenges, as he did during the time to transform this country to democracy, that was a difficult moment in 1996. We had war. Our politics was really fragile. Divisive rhetoric amongst us. A regime headed by the military junta. And he said, let me take the decision. First in the sub-region, to change the political landscape of our country by introducing democracy. People thought it was not going to happen. But indeed, it came to pass. That is what we understand by the quotation from Martin Luther King. And let us make an introspect of the things that we went through. But Mr. Speaker, we forget to worry. We are too fast. That's what we went through. Can you remember the violence that we went through? Why do we support insurrection? They don't kick against insurrections and coups. They have no place in our body politics. There is no school for violence. If we talk to President, if we look at the trajectory President Biya is taking, trust me, my colleagues, both sides of the aisle, we can change the trajectory of this country. And in fact, if you are more serious, and let me tell you, we can approach President Biya. The issue of win and take in our constitution, as we are about to approach constitutional reforms, we should be debating around things. Do we talk about win and take all in our body politics? Do we talk about having, when you have a percentage share, can we have some at a particular point to serve in governance? Perhaps the political tension is based on win and take all. We have seen it from the then administrations, and President Biya is drawing attention to so many things that's happening. That is why I've read these provisions for us to understand. We are encouraging the bad people amongst us because of our rhetorics to formulate coups, do insurrections. The question we ask ourselves, are we benefit from such insurrection or coups? The decency of democracy is how do we iron out our differences? Use the institutional reforms. Use institutions, not by violence. So, Speaker, let's take note of paragraph 14. The other paragraph, I've just drawn your attention that you look at this state. We are open to some of the suggestions that you are going to make. But Mr. Speaker, let me now draw your attention to our development plan, our medium-term plan, under this rubric. Page 3, you talk about the medium-term national development plan 2024 to 2030. We can only talk about some of these things where you have normal temperature and pressure. Democracy is at play at its best. You violence, you can't talk about national medium, you can't talk about development plan for 2024-2030. And because when we are talking about this, Mr. Speaker, it's very clear that because of the United Nations Development, Sustainable Development Programs, that's the SDGs, this United Nations Development, not the Sustainable Development Agenda, we need to intertwine with what we do based on our policies as Sierra Leonean in our administration. That is agenda for 2030. That's what the SDG is talking about. So our policy formulation, based on the African Union also, 2063, as stated in this report, under our medium-term development plans, we should be intertwined. We should make sure that the plan that we set be in tune with our development plan. And we have ratified treaties and agreements. We are members of this organization. Of course, we are part of the Security Council now. So we are talking about our programs that has to do with this agenda. So under this rubric, we have discussed so many issues, Mr. Speaker. Because of what the situation that is happening right now, we know wars around, even in the American body politics, there are so many issues at play. That is why we should be careful and see the trajectory we are going to take. Mr. Speaker, let me draw attention under this rubric, paragraph 17, and I will read. It said, even the best laid plans, that's talking about the medium-term national development plan 2024-2030, which I said in tune with the United Nations program under the Sustainable Development Agenda goals, we have the 2030, and under the African Union, we have 2063. And it said in paragraph 17, even the best laid plans can encounter obstacles, but without such foresight, a nation remains vulnerable to the unpredicted challenges of our globalized world. When we come to talk about the blue economy, you see, the projections were made, but the fact remains that there are challenges within the blue economy. But when it comes down to policies that you lay down, which I will make reference to as I move along, or policies that you lay when you talk about the fiscal strategy that you put in place, as if you say I'm going to fight inflation to bring it down from 20% to 18%, there are variables that you depend on what you do. So if you also lay down your development plans from 2025, 2024, 2030, there must be challenges that you will face. So President Biya has been very careful in trying to draw our attention to some of these things. That even so, we are trying to put our programs in line with the best practice, in line with the globalized world. We cannot move away from them. Because even our budgetary support, our external mobilization resources we get, has to do with our international partners. So, Mr. Speaker, all of those factors depends on other factors that fight us. Wars around the sub-regions. We talk about fight against insurrections in other places. We are fighting about countries that are moved to seize an opportunity that they think they can seize an advantage. They are superpowers, actually affecting us. Terrorism is affecting us. So we are saying, we have laid down these plans, but there are things that can shape these plans for us. And that is why we need to address them. We need to create a platform where we discuss some of these issues. But let's look at paragraph 21. He alluded to the fact that even if you are talking about you lay down your plans, and the best laid plans, if they are not futuristic and taking into considerations the challenge that you face, there are others that we need to take into consideration in paragraph 21. He said, let our national development plan and its implementation be a testament of our collective ambition, Mr. Speaker, and guiding light for prosperous nation. We are all building together. There's no way. Maybe we stand as politicians. As I said in my opening statement, you have the pros and the cons of what we do. If the opposition don't bring us to our toes, there is no way we are going to look at ourselves, say we are party in democracy. So as we move along, the best you can do for us, if you say this is not good, if this is not good, provide the other good solution. That if you take this one step, you miss it out, take the other step. Criticize me for the first step I've taken, refuse to listen to you. So that's why I draw our attention. The best plan themselves. We can have all of these ones, but must have challenges if we don't look at it in a positive way. So that is why you look at the positive side and you look at the negative side. Perhaps at the moment, you are not under some considerations in terms of putting your projections well when you are talking to. So for you to go alone, it cannot be a prudent way to enhance better implementation of the project. So His Excellency is calling on us, all of us. It's a collective responsibility that we come together to make sure that some of these programs that we are rolling out is not be only on one side. Evidences. That is the trajectory I want us to take. That is how we should move as a progressive nation.
Evidence-based.
You know, I think I know. That's why they are going to Qatar. I know they are going to be firing all over the place. I'm setting the limitations. You are not saying 100% going to work. It's not 100% going to work. It's not going to work because there are factors responsible to drive your agenda. We are donor driven. I will entreat my colleagues when we reach a resource mobilization under the blue economy. What do we do? Look at the first quarter, what was collected. Some of these factors, some of these plans can only best work with resources. So we talk about resources, we talk about the trajectory we are going to take, we talk about how do we implement them. That is simple. That's why I'm bringing attention from my colleagues. You will start asking us, this has not happened, this has not happened. But you give us the other solution. Mr. Speaker, let's look at agriculture under the same rubric, agriculture and food security. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we are talking about job creation. We are talking about agricultural activities. We said the fish salon project. But Mr. Speaker, a hungry man is a hungry man. We are already facts that. But if we take agriculture into serious consideration, we can mitigate the shocks that we get from the economy. If we take agriculture to its extent as we see President Bill is practicing, we can enhance job creation. But let me entreat my colleagues what he said. And he's very transparent and he's very, very upright in drawing our attention. We are not talking about the food security. From the then Kaba administration to the then former president and the Nkrumah administration, we have talked about food security. And in this present administration, we are still talking about food security. There are reasons why we are talking about food security. Food sufficiency, affordability, accessibility. That should be what we are focused on. Now, when we assess ourselves, are we talking about basic rhetoric or are we going to practicalize it? We will look at some of the things that are put forward to us, based on some of these things that we have talked about. Food availability should be our concern. And volatility in terms of the production of food. So, Mr. Speaker, if I draw attention to paragraph 24 rather. Without the ability to feed, he said, without the ability to feed our people, we risk sitting atop a volatile precipice, poised to unrest and turmoil. Food insufficiency is we should mitigate against that. We should mitigate food insufficiency. We should fight very hard to see how best we can feed ourselves. This is a fact. And he went further to state the adage, a hungry man is an angry man, holds profound truth, highlighting a direct link between food security and national security. These are facts that if you don't feed yourselves, if you don't come together to see how best we can do, it's going to be a national security threat to all of us. Yes, you can talk about getting my voice. It's up to you. But let me just respond to your undertone. In the first time in the history of Kenima, since I was born, and the first time in the history of Kenima, since we started politics after our colonial masters, this eye speaks for itself. We have tar roads, we have university, we have nothing with light. Never see. We have nothing with light. The 10th administration of Anes by Nkrumah, there was total blackout in Kenima. Total blackout, no university. I will come to that. But I will not dwell on that. I'm just bringing attention to direction. You cannot distract me. That is side one. I presume that you make reference. What is in front of me? Don't get my voice. What is in front of me? What in front of me is not rhetoric. What in front of me is a reality that we have to face. What in front of me, we are talking about the fact that President Bio is not only you have to talk, but he's talk and do. In terms of human development, in terms of food production, he's a living testament. We are seeing on social media what he is doing. That's why I said we talk about food security from the then President Kaba's government. Talk about Anes by Nkrumah. Talk about President Bio. Now we are looking at those trajectory. What are we doing? He has faced with the fact that a hungry man is an angry man. And if we continue to have food insufficiency in this country, we're going to lead to a crisis. So that is what we're trying to combat. We come to the step he has taken, I will draw your attention to. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, under the same rubric, when we talk about agricultural productivity, we'll talk about agricultural activity within the rural sector. Paragraph 23 is very clear about that. They are talking about nation stability and prosperity depends on agriculture. You have new job creation if you embark on serious agricultural activities. So let us take note of that. When you look at agriculture, not only because of subsistence farming, but you look about the job creation that we get from agricultural activities. Mr. Speaker, let me again allude to the fact that, as I said, the reason why we need to talk about agriculture and food security, the points are very clear to us. We have talked about the fish salon. The fish salon project is very clear. I read the very step that we are going to take, and the proposal, and things are working. When we started issues, they say it's not working. When you are starting from ground zero to somewhere else, to achieve the upper activity, you have to go through some struggles. And we are aware of the fact that there are things and challenges talking about the global effect. Talk about the post-pandemic war, by post-pandemic effect, the COVID. But we are still on the trajectory. We are still doing things that we can. We are still talking about human capacity development. We are still in the right direction. Donor confidence is in us because of our physical stability we have maintained, because of our physical discipline we have maintained. So let me draw the attention of my colleagues on paragraph 26 again. The government has focused on addressing key constraints such as finance, soil fertility, water management, mechanization, quality seed input, infrastructure, and development of technology and research to boost agricultural productivity in Sierra Leone. You can't talk about having a lot of production. You can't talk about having enhanced agricultural food security if you don't try to address some of these issues. So what you have done, Mr. Speaker, for the good of my colleagues on the other side, because they don't believe. That's why I said, if you have looked at the food salary is not working, profile your solutions. Tell us that this is not working. But we know, Mr. Speaker, that we are on the right track. The step that we have taken is a step that we are going to ensure that there is food security, there is food sufficiency, there is accessibility to food in this country. So paragraph 29, the first step, honor watchers, honor discipline. We said the president alluded to the fact that because we have those challenges and we have taken series of steps. One, under paragraph 29, said expansion of rice production. That's the priority. Expansion of rice production. Two, mechanization of value chain. Research and quality input. That's why I refer you to paragraph 26, talking about technology and input, soil fertility, and what you can do. Because if you don't study the soil structure, there is no way you are going to make sure that you have a better yield. There is no way you are going to get a better yield. Mr. Speaker, paragraph the third one under it, we talk about the research and quality input. The fourth one is talking about revival of cooperatives. We have this cooperative. Sierra Leone used to feed itself, but because of bad governance, under the Basheke Amomo administration, that's why we are still talking about food insecurity. So we are trying to mitigate some of the shocks because of bad governance. That's why we are going through these steps to educate our colleagues. It is not about political rhetoric. It's about what we face as a nation. It's about the crisis we are in. The president is very clear that let us look at some of these factors. Development of agro-business, establishment of agricultural hubs, industrial hubs. Number 7, support to armed forces agriculture. Mr. Speaker, we used to have this one, and the president drew our attention to this. We used to talk about agriculture, the armed forces agriculture. He has also talked about this under the same rubric, under paragraph 29, the fiscal loan project. 8 financial instruments for agriculture. Agrotech, that is agri-tech and climate smart agriculture. Mr. Speaker, you also talk about empowerment of women and youth and also improve farmers' earning. These are some of the things that we need to talk about, that will encourage us to move fast. But Mr. Speaker, we are just talking about youth and other input that we do in the agricultural sector. If I reverse you back to what we have done with consistency in our policy making, today we look at representation of women. We look at what we are doing as a policy drive. I just want to draw the attention of my colleagues that we cannot talk about some of these issues if you are not seeing consistency in our policies. We have been very consistent in our policies. That is why you see female representation all over the place. That is why we injecting. There's a the women are most represented, both in terms of legislation, in terms of executive representation. But let me draw your attention to what he said in paragraph 6. And I will draw attention to the consistency of our programs, that you need to trust us. You just talk. We talk and we walk the walk for our people. Paragraph 6. I am particularly pleased that the Historic Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act, I signed into law last year, has realized our national aspiration for women to be significantly represented in Parliament and to participate fully in the legislative process. The achievement marks a significant milestone in our journey towards the inclusive and equitable society. Mr. Speaker, when we started this journey, to talk about women representation. We had our colleagues, they move away from it. They say it's not going to benefit women. I don't want to start pointing fingers, but we know ourselves very well. We are very consistent in what we have been doing. We are very proud of the moves that we have taken in trying to enhance women's activities and make sure that they achieve what they are supposed to achieve. Mr. Speaker, even in our numbering in terms of women's empowerment, we have been very consistent in our paragraph. In 2022, in paragraph 131, right up to 135. In 2024, from paragraph 131 and 32 up to 135, we have been talking about women empowerment. But at this time, Mr. Speaker, we don't need to talk about much about the eye speaks for itself. When you see the representation in this chamber, you realize that we have been more. Yeah, we have female representation here. We have beat the 30% quota we have been fighting for. This is a policy consistency. Mr. Speaker, let me draw your attention to something that is very important. Why do we need to have women? Why the president must focus the attention on having women amongst us? Even when people were fighting against us, that it cannot work, we have women that move out of this chamber. They refuse to participate. But the veracity of what we are doing is that to call gender parity, and today there is successful implementation of what we do in the women's empowerment for the legislative aspect of it. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, as much as we move in trying to empower ourselves, we will not move. We look at where have we gone wrong. And investing in gears catches them upstream is even smarter economics. Because they are telling us that, because President Biya is very consistent. In the last presidential statement he delivered in this house, you are not here. Let me give you let me read a minute to you for the last meeting. In the last presentation, we are not around. He said, open the political space, infusing our female folks into the political atmosphere, into our political drive, from the top essence of our democracy. That is President Biya. And he has been very consistent. That's why he said in 2023, when he came for the state opening, he said it again in the other presentation in 2022, said, what do we do? When you educate a woman, you educate the whole nation. These are points of fact. Today, he is talking about smart economics, using women. That is good to educate women, but catching them upstream. That is why this very parliament, he praised us for what we have done. He talked to us that he praised us for the things that we are doing. It's also enshrined in this very document. Same thanks to Parliament for the beautiful legislation that we have enacted, both sides of the aisle. So I just want to draw my colleagues, let me draw attention to this house. Together, we can't do it alone. Even when I talk about women's empowerment, even when I talk about coaching in Guzi, even when I talk about the enactment of the giving, it has to do with the bipartisan approach. Whether we have the numbers or not, the most important thing is for us to move together as a nation. That is the very first statement also by President Biya from his first page. We need to come together to save this nation from where we are. We need to face the fact that we are talking about food security. We need to point out the fact under the Feast Alone program, as I have read to you, 11 items that he listed, they are supposed to look at under the Feast Alone programs. Mr. Speaker, under the Human Development Index, capacity development, the Human Capital Development Side. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about education, we started talking about education, and sometimes we treat it as if we are doing it in terms of money. We try to politicize it. We try to look at it by who know you basis. But I told one of my colleagues, I said, we don't use violence in our manifesto. The languages we put in our manifestos, we don't use violence. We use polite languages to persuade the people. That is why I read paragraph 179 of this very speech. 179. Reminding us about our responsibilities. President Biya is fully aware of what his responsibilities are. So in rolling out under the Human Development Capital, talking about education, we should put our hands on deck to talk about education every moment, any hour, every second. Because we are here today because of education. It will be unfair on our people when we fail to take about education. Mr. Speaker, you are there because you are educated. We did not go to the village to take him to come and sit here as speaker. We did not take an illiterate. We did not take Van Gogh from Kenima. We have looked at people who are educated in line with the job we are doing. Your job description speaks to its facts and you must be educated. Mr. Speaker, Section 9, subsection 2 of our Constitution, they sign note educational opportunities. It's not President Bill that manufactured this one. The Constitution was written by our then administration, the then APC administration, 1991 Constitution. But perhaps I need to remind people about this section in the Constitution. These educational opportunities. Why do we need to talk about them? Capacitated people, those who are down here, the underprivileged, those who cannot meet the goals of education, primary and junior secondary, and senior secondary. It is clearly stated in our Constitution, Section 9, subsection 2. If you don't mind, you can read. The side notes are very clear about it. Why do we keep on dragging on education as if it's a political tool? It's not a music. It's not a lyrics. It's a point of fact in our Constitution that we need to educate the underprivileged. We need to educate our people. It's a selfish on our part as politicians. We never talk about education. But President, we have been very bold enough. Stand tall to protect women. Stand tall to talk about education. Why do we treat education as if it's a political commodity? It's not. Education cannot be a political tool. It's a right of our people to educate them. We are here, we are talking about education because we are there for the fact that education can only take us to the next level. That is the legacy that we can give our generation yet unborn. That's why we are making a space for them. But Mr. Speaker, for us to stop ranting about this educational business as if we are using this as a tool, that's why we have been very serious to talk about it. I will attempt to read Section 9 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the educational objective we said, government shall direct its policy towards ensuring that there are equal rights and equate educational opportunities for all citizens at all levels. A, which is stated, it said ensuring that every citizen is given the opportunity to be educated, to be the best of his ability, aptitude, and inclination by providing educational facilities at all levels and aspects of education, such as primary, Mr. Speaker, secondary, vocational, technical, college, and university. B, safeguarding the rights of vulnerable groups, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, it's good to draw our attention to our colleagues, the attention of our colleagues, to some of these issues that you have raised that has to do with education. It's not a child's play. It's not an issue that you have to play with. But because of that one, he has been very consistent in dealing with that. He mentioned what I'm referring to stand in paragraph 34 of his speech. He's drawn our attention consistently. But Bali once said, you can fool people sometimes, but you can't fool people all the time. We have fooled our people for so long. We stand what we tell them. We tell them about violence. We have our leaders talking about violence. They don't have time to work to address issues using democratic institutions. Mobilize our people. Come to the street. No, it's not like that. Use institutions. Even if you don't believe in them. As a decent Sierra, use them. People are using it. It's not only Sierra facing democratic challenges. Even in the West, they are facing it. These are things that have within our domain. Let us address them. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, let me draw your attention to this sector. We are not saying we are perfect in dealing with issues, because we don't have that unlimited. We don't have the resources. We don't have unlimited resources. Even countries, advanced countries, we have those who are even supporting us. Don't support. How do we drive our mid-term development programs? Mr. Speaker, if you take a look at another programs under the Human Development Capital, we talk about the health sector. It's not only talking about the health sector in terms of infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. It's not only talking about the infrastructure. When you have the infrastructure, you also talk about the human capacity. That you employ more health workers, you also try to train them in the most advanced way. So the structure is growing with capacity building. In terms of human resource, in terms of training. So paragraph 40, Mr. Speaker, is strengthening the health sector. It's very clear about that. That these are the things that we need to do in terms of strengthening the health sector. We are faced with the fact that health is something that we need to pay attention to. But what he said in paragraph 40, he's talking about the recruitment of health workers, over 600 health workers. But paragraph 41, he is also talking about when you also employ these health workers, you make sure you train them, you give the necessary capacity that they do. If they do, they will give you the best service that you are looking for. But if you just have the infrastructure, you don't have the adequate capacity in terms of training, in terms of the know-how in using modernized equipment, especially in our health sector, it's a very big challenge. So I tell my colleagues to look at paragraph 40, look at paragraph 41. And we have recruited more health workers, but we are talking about the fact that we need to train them, give them adequate capacity. Mr. Speaker, there are many challenges. So many challenges in the health sector. We are not ashamed of that. When we took over governance, the records can speak for itself. The child mortality and maternal mortality rates, we are so high. We are rated very high. But we did not make a blame game, Mr. Speaker. We said we are going to fight it. We said we are going to look at it. In a more decent way like Sierra Leone, we are going to call all players on board, WHO, external partners. Those who are health workers, we need to motivate them. Mr. Speaker, we have been in more pincos and trained more nurses and doctors. We have changed the policies that you cannot be at the ministry and you want to be at the product. If you want to be a medical administrator, stay at UBB. If you want to be a social specialist, stay at Connaught. We have drawn the line, but we have challenges. But when we talk about the child mortality and maternal mortality rates, that are so high, what you have done, by working about the global standard, the global for specialized babies, we have the clinics, the units all over the district, with the exception of Falaba and Garine. That the standard they are giving us, the global standard for special baby care units, 80% of that one we have done. Check in various districts that we have implemented them. 80% have been done. 80%, Mr. Speaker. These are data that are available on the website. You check them. But what we have done, I said, when we took over governance, we had the high rate in child mortality and maternal mortality. Mr. Speaker, as I speak, it has been reduced. We have reduced it, and the percentage is 87% of that one. It's stated in this report. Go to paragraph 44, 46, you will see there. Infrastructure, 46, talking about what you have done in terms of the health sector. I am not saying you can't criticize us. Give us the proof. They are there. These are things where I represent our people from the rural sector, from the urban areas. So this issue about democracy is about saying the truth. It's about providing solutions. Because there's no perfection in humanity. That is what we are saying. Let us come together. Let us push and make sure that we move this nation, not on the basis of promoting violence or rhetoric, but the things, the service delivery to our people. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I remember, I can say thanks to, though we had the issue of Ebola, that's why I was unprecedented. We had the shock, the dead administration, we are bastardized. But as for even when we are in opposition, we assisted the government at that moment to make sure that we protect our people. When it comes to the matter of the pandemic, the COVID, we use the lessons learned from the Ebola. That's why the death rate is running, according to records, the lowest in terms of COVID issues. So we are able to learn lessons from the corona, from the Ebola, and combat the COVID-19. Thanks to whatever structure put in place from the then administration, rolling it back. We did not sleep on it. Rolling it back, bringing it forward as far as we can fight for the COVID. So if you read paragraph 49, it's very clear. So kudos to everybody that participated in that one. But Mr. Speaker, I want to draw your attention to a very serious issue that has to do with the job creation. Mr. Speaker, you know why you have people are yearning for so much jobs. And President Bill said in the policy statement, I'm trying to create 500,000 jobs every year. That should be an ambitious statement. But it's good for us to say it. If you believe that human capital development is working, we have more universities, we have more graduates. You are not faced with the fact that there is so much in terms of employment now. So what we have done, we said we need to look at job creation at different levels of our drive as administration. So in terms of job creation, we talk about youth empowerment, which is very clear, Mr. Speaker. It's a job. That's what I told the other person last time. That's why when somebody talk about Adlungi, I stood up and made my point. Succinctly, but very solid. I said, if you don't have the position to be a PhD, and they advertise for PhD, you have only a diploma. You cannot get a job for the PhD. If you have been graduated and professionalized, you should be proud of what you are doing. You go to America, people are washing, you have car washers. They are all over the place. You go to parks, you have people washing vehicles. Even in the States is here. It's the level of education. It's the level, there are people washing dishes all over the place in America.